Welcome to week 3 of Ronde and Tiki, presented by SuperBook Sports. It's a big week for you, bro. You're going back to the Noke. Going back to hometown.
How about that? That's how you're going to start this off. Let people know.
Yeah, man. I mean,
now everybody's going to show up in Roanoke because
I hope so. Your Hall of Fame tour is like never ending.
Dude, this Hall of Fame deal. I mean, it was great. It's still great. I'm not going to lie. It is like daunting. Like I dare anybody to love what you have to do once you get into the Hall of Fame. The whole week of Hall of Fame is crazy, but that was worth it. You know, you get your speech, you get your party. But now I still got to get. So this week. So what am I doing this week? Today at a board meeting. That's irrelevant, not football related. Tomorrow I have a golf event. Thursday, free. Friday, Roanoke for one day to go to homecoming back at Cave Spring High School. Saturday, fly home. People coming in for a party that we're throwing on Sunday prior to the Monday night game where I'm getting my Hall of Fame ring. And like it's nonstop. Like I got event on Sunday night, got event on dinner on Saturday night. It's what we do.
Wait, who are you guys playing in that game again?
Of course we're playing in Philadelphia. How about that? This is not a rivalry, the Bucks and the Eagles, but it has become like
no, it's not a rivalry, the Bucks and Eagles. It's a rivalry, the Eagles and Ronde Barber.
Well, no, I'm not playing anymore. But the reality is,
they're always interacting with you, whether in this damn Super Bowl. Of all teams in the NFC that get represented in the Super Bowl that last year, it was the Eagles who roundly booed you. Now you're getting your Hall of Fame ring and you're playing the Eagles on Monday night. It's like you can't escape them.
They'll probably be booing me on Monday night too, but that's irrelevant. I don't want to be part of the discussion, even though I am part of the discussion. But the NFL in their infinite wisdom puts a Monday night game, Eagles at Bucks, and then the Bucks decide that's the game where I get my Hall of Fame ring. Like, Can I stop antagonizing Eagles fans? I'm sorry, this wasn't me, Eagles fans. I got to stop antagonizing you, but I promise this is the last time. Maybe.
I was surprised because this is not the first home game of 2023. It's the second home game. So I can't help but think it was intentional. But regardless, dude, this game is going to turn out to be epic because of where the Bucks find themselves. Man, look, I had the Bucks in week 1. I had zero idea what to expect from Baker Mayfield. And it was a little bit shaky at the beginning of that game. It was kind of ugly. He missed the easy throws, all those things that you talk about with a team. Really, it's all offenses in the NFL. That's another story. They're just all sloppy. I think a lot of it's because nobody practices or does anything in the preseason. But I had no idea what to expect from Baker. He comes out in that second half. I'm like, this is the Baker Mayfield you want to be your quarterback. And he's 2-0. And he's not throwing an interception. He's got 3 touchdowns. Man, he looks like he could be the man down there. Now, I don't know if that's the long-term answer, but he's impressive so far.
I mean, if you like this type of football, look, Baker Mayfield, let's see, he's half of the age of Tom Brady. He's half his number, now that I think about it. If Brady was 12, Baker's 6. But he is twice the escapability and the excitement level of Brady. Like I go back and watch the films every week, and when you got a Brady film, you're expecting like 70 plays, 70 offensive plays, and they're all kind of routine, efficient. Take your chances when they're there. Baker is like 55 plays of pure adrenaline. Like there was 4 or 5 scramble opportunities. They had him dead to right, sack him. Chicago did last week, and he just does his little duck underneath, ran for 8 yards on one, made a ridiculous sidearm falling throw that should have been like the highlight of the week. If you're a Bucks fan, a completion that we all know Tom Brady could not do.
No.
And that's where this team is. They're playing great defense, though, Tiki. First of all, you want to talk about why this team is 2-0. It's because they've generated 10 sacks in 2 weeks. They had 2 turnovers last week against Chicago, 1 interception for a touchdown that basically sealed the game. They are absolutely getting after people on that side of the ball. And that's the reason why this what you saw in week one, somewhat inefficient offense at times, is able to materialize itself when it matters because the games are close. But they can go somewhere. The NFC South is, I mean, we've talked about it week in, week out. It's like, who knows? Three 2-0 teams in the NFC South right now. Obviously, Carolina's struggling. Bryce Young is not quite,
ready.
Not quite ready to put it on his shoulders and win for Carolina.
But he manufactured a push on Monday Night Football this week.
Right. But the reality is the NFC South is a little bit more competitive than I think we all anticipated it to be. But I think the rubber hits the road this week for Tampa. This is a game that will determine, who they are. They're 5.5-point dogs on SuperBook Sports right now on that Monday Night Football game. And I think we all should be looking forward to it. I know I'm looking forward to it, not just because I'm getting my Hall of Fame ring, but also because it's going to be a good game.
Man. You can't help yourself. But that brings up something, Ronde, because you look at some of the 2-0 teams. The Bucs are 2-0. The Eagles are 2-0. The Baltimore Ravens are 2-0. The Cowboys are 2-0. You look at some of these teams, and this is a narrative around the league. Right, offenses are sloppy. I said it before, and I'll say it again. They look out of sorts. Right, protection issues. They're not really connecting with wide receivers. But it's the teams that have the old school core philosophies, like the Baltimore Ravens, whose philosophy is we are not going to let teams run on us. We are going to stop the run, just like the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Just like the Philadelphia Eagles, 1 and 2 rush defenses in the NFL. And then on the other side, it's like we are going to run the football, right? We are going to stay balanced. We are not going to turn into 50-something passes a game. I think early in the season, coaches or philosophies that have that old school run the ball, stop the run are going to find advantages. It's going to take like 2 or 3 more weeks before teams that are pass happy get their cylinders going on in all gears. I think that's an interesting little side effect of what's happened in these off seasons. These teams that start early are usually the ones that can run the ball and stop the run, period.
Right. That's a good point. I wouldn't have correlated to that, but Atlanta is running the ball. Bijan Robinson looks like that dude, by the way.
That dude. Yep.
New Orleans Saints, whereas they're not quite doing that on offense, they're winning on defense. So to your point, defense matters.
Mostert went bonkers.
Right. And the Dolphins. We got to come back and talk about the Dolphins. By the way, this damn Tua Tagovailoa, he might be something more than I think that he was possible of being. But the one that you in the class of the NFC and probably NFL right now is the Cowboys. 2 weeks, 70 points, only 10 given up. Running and passing the football with aplomb, and then Dan Quinn's defense might be. I mean, obviously, Micah Parsons is the best player in football right now. At least he has an argument to be the best player in football. But their unit, to me, is as good as any unit in the game right now. And to your point about slow starts on offense, if you're having a defense that is fast starting like they are, they're going to win. They are going to win a lot of games this year just because of their defense.
I think that, being a copycat league, we're going to start. I don't know if we're going to ever get the preseason back like we used to have it, where you had to play, you had to get physical, you had to have a practice game in the second or third preseason game. I don't think that's ever going to come back, but I do think we're going to see a shift and how teams are looking to execute early on in seasons. You got to have a run game, and you got to play great defense. So that's why we're seeing a bunch of these 5-man lines nowadays. Because
you got a stalker behind you, by the way.
Yeah, I know. Look at her. It's like intense. CJ makes me nervous. I gotta tell you, I don't like 2-0. Home dogs. 2-0 home dogs. I don't love the Eagles on the road. I'm not hating on the Eagles. They're the cream of the crop.
Right.
So I like the Buccaneers getting 5.5 right now. I'm just saying early look in at that game, but home dog that is 2-0 playing great defense and good football.
Right.
That's one to look at.
Right. Well, you know that the Eagles want to run the football, and with Vita Vea in the middle and the way that our edge players in Tampa are getting after the quarterback, and really, I mean, Justin Fields is and this could be something to do with the offensive coordinator in Chicago not letting Justin Fields try to run the football in first 2 weeks of the year, which is again, another discussion. But they contain a guy that had the most rushing yards in history of the position last year. To what did he run for last week? Like, I don't even know. I don't remember him having a design run, and if he did, it was knocked out. The Bucks up front and their linebackers, Devin White, who was trying to leave in the offseason.
He just wants to get paid. He just wants to get paid.
He does, but I'm telling you what, if he wants to get paid, he should have been playing like he's been playing now last year, because he is playing 2 games. He's been phenomenal. Best middle linebacker in football.
By the way, 4 rushes, 3 yards for Justin.
There you go. That's what I was looking for. And that's what Philly's game is, right? Jalen Hurts, obviously using whichever running backs that they're going to use. Last week it was DeAndre Swift. First week it was Gainwell. But it all happens because of their running quarterback. And Tampa just handled a running quarterback in Chicago. So I think this game is going to set up for a good one. 5.5. It seems like a lot of points. It seems like a 3-point game to me. So if you're looking to cover, we can take the home team.
You just mentioned
with some inspiration from their former Buck, who's getting his Hall of Fame ring at halftime.
You're an idiot. I'm not trolling them anymore. Yeah, here we are with another troll. Hey, we got to have a conversation about running backs, bro.
Yes.
It is a constant injury. And I know we had this talk 2 weeks ago or 3 weeks ago about why running backs aren't getting paid. There's not enough great ones. There might not be enough healthy ones, dude. It just, every week, another one goes down. But why bet with the big boys this football season, Ronde? Instead, try your hand with the local book, SuperBook Sports, this fall. SuperBook Sports is the book next door, just a dedicated team of the best odds makers in Las Vegas, making sure you get the best prices and parlays anywhere. And now, SuperBook will give you a bonus of up to $250 when you sign up and wager on the same day and use promo code Ronde or Tiki. Ronde or Tiki. Use either one of those promo codes. We have a competition, so make sure you do Tiki first. So bet with the best and use promo code Ronde or Tiki this football season with SuperBook Sports. Visit superbook.com for terms and conditions. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER.
All right, everybody, welcome back to Ronde and Tiki, presented by SuperBooks. And Tiki, you want to talk about running backs? We opened up our season week 1 preview talking about why running backs don't get paid, because there's not a lot good of them. Christian McCaffrey is like the best of them, right?
Yeah. If you had 15 of them, they would get paid.
Right. He is making $15 million a year. That's reason. Right now, I think you're seeing why ownership and general managers and teams in general are hesitant to play running backs. Just the injuries that they take, the number of hits. I mean, you know this. The number of opportunities for catastrophic injury is probably most at that position. Would you agree?
No, without a doubt, because look, you're getting contacted almost every play. So if you're running the ball, guess what? You're going to get hit unless you're banging your head on the goalpost or running out of bounds. You have to pass protect if you're going to be an every down back. It's why you're often getting platoons now. And, even when you're not involved, linebackers just want to hit you, right? They just want to disrupt you. And so you're always in danger of getting hit. Very rarely, though, are you in a compromised situation, like where you're going to do something catastrophic, unless you're running between the tackles. And that brings us to Nick Chubb. Like, Nick Chubb has been one of the best backs, I think.
The best back.
He's been the best back, consistent runner. He's not Chris McCaffrey. Like, he's not going to ever catch for 1,000 yards receiving like C-Mac, but the most consistent, dominant runner over the last couple of years. And on Monday Night Football, he went down with they didn't even show a replay of it because it was so disturbing. where his knee gets hyperextended, likely dislocated. I thought it was a tib fib fracture, but it looks now on second thought like it's a knee. And he's definitely done for the season. He could be done, for his career, because that's the same knee that he tore up when he was in college. And so, right, I love his game, right? And if any running back should get paid, it's a guy like him. But now he's done. And if you had paid him, then obviously insurance covers it, but it's still a loss of your resource. And so, like, running backs are never going to find a way to be healthier. Like, there's just no way to do it. I know we were talking before the show, like, how did I do it? I did it because I didn't get a ton of hits early in my career. Right? I was a third down back and a kick returner. And once I became an everyday player, it was really 3 years. It wasn't like 7 years as a 400 touch player. That was only 3 years I had to weather it. And after 3 years, I was like, I'm done, bro. So it's a grind that is devastating. And when the injury disrupts a team like Nick Chubb's does the Cleveland Browns, I don't know how they recover from that. I thought they had a chance this year. If he's out, there's no chance for them.
Their replacement, who was the guy that came in last night, he played pretty well. But you're talking about replacing a guy in his 5 years, now 6 years as a running back. Only one of those years was he not 1,000-yard back, and that was year one, and he was 4 yards short of being 1,000-yard back. 1,400 yards, 1,000 yards, 12 and a half, 1,500 yards, and the guy is 6,500 yards in 5 years. That's impossible to replicate and stay healthy. I mean, he's missed 5 or 6 games over the course of those years, but you're looking at him now, and you feel bad for him because he was free agent. He's in the last year of his contract. He was set to get paid whatever that market was going to be for him, but he would have been somewhere. And now, I mean, it hurts. It as a football player and a guy that appreciates the game, looking at him and watching that injury last night, it hurts because it's significantly affecting his career and his opportunity to get paid down the road.
Well, it's not only that, but so it happens the same week that Saquon goes down. The Giants had one of the most ridiculous comebacks that you could ever imagine, and Saquon Barkley was a big part of it. They're trying to just run out the clock and burn time so that the Cardinals don't have time to come back and maybe tie the game or do whatever, and he hurts his ankle. They say it's an ordinary sprain, whatever the heck that means, but he's going to miss 3 weeks. So that's not an ordinary sprain. An ordinary sprain means you maybe you're out for a few days or so. So he's out for 2 or 3 weeks for the Giants, and they play on Thursday Night Football this week against the 49ers. And so obviously it makes a big, stick in the spoke. Austin Eckler, he's out with an ankle injury, and he's been a big part of the Chargers offense for 2-3 years now. And he's 28 years old, and he wanted to get paid, but I mean, he misses 3 or 4 weeks. He's not getting paid this offseason. You look at all of these guys that come around, Chubb and Barkley and Austin Eckler, Aaron Jones for the Green Bay Packers. He pulled his hamstring, scoring a touchdown. He could miss a couple of weeks. It's like the running back has become, at least the one that you want to feed, has become unreliable. And when I talk to coaches now, because I'm doing these games and we ask about running backs, all of them are, it's by committee now. This guy will get this many carries. This guy will get, 6 touches. This guy will get 8 touches. It almost frustrates me because I think back to, like my last season when we played you, because we were looking this up. The Dax Hill and Justice Hill played against each other, the Bengals and the Ravens last week. And so we were doing this thing on brothers. And, we went and looked at my last game against you. I had 26 carries in that game. Yeah. I only had 80-something yards, 6 yards or whatever it was, but I had 26 carries, right? And it just made me realize how the position has changed so much. But I almost feel like, Ronde, that by weathering the load you actually get used to taking the load. Does that make
Yeah,
sense? Like
right.
you get calloused to being
Right.
a every down player.
Callous is the right word. And what teams think though is by sharing the load, they're hedging their bet on both players or three, however many of your running backs
Yeah.
are playing. I mean, just look no further than Atlanta. Bijan Robinson has 29 rushing attempts. Uh, Tyler Algiers has 31 rushing attempts. And we haven't even brought in Patterson, who hasn't played in 2 games. So the reality is teams can't afford, I don't think, to have a bell cow anymore, unless his name is Derrick Henry. I mean, that he's different. McCaffrey,
but he's physically
right,
different, Ronde.
right.
Like the way he gets away with it, he's a freak. He's a physical freak for a guy who can carry the rock.
So the two highest rushers in the league right now are McCaffrey and Derrick Henry, right? Because they're both different. McCaffrey does it in a way that Shanahan allows him and Debo Samuel to kind of share reps or run similar type plays. I mean, in the broadcast the other day, they were saying, "Oh, they're kind of interchangeable." They're not really interchangeable. They're just they have the ability to be to get into the same type of plays from different positions. That's what the difference is there. Derrick Henry is the only one that will line up, dot the I, be in the middle, be in a play on third down and shotgun, and still be able to be effective running football. He's the only one. He's the only one that can take those kind of hits. I don't know that this will ever go back, Tiki. I don't think it'll ever go back to being a one person job. It just evolved so much over the years, especially with passing game being so much more prevalent. You need guys that can do multiple things. It just makes your offense more dynamic too.
Yeah, you know what I think is going to happen, to be honest with you? I think running backs are just going to become like extended wide receivers. So you're going to have running backs. It's going to be a skill that you have to have. Like not being able to catch the ball as a back is going to disqualify you from being a player. Because if you are a running back and a starter, if you're a running back and you can't catch anymore, you're useless, right? Because the offensive coordinator can't use you and say, let's put 21 personnel out there. So it's 2 running backs and a tight end who's basically a big wide receiver. The fullback can expand to become the tight end. The running back can expand to become, the slot wide receiver. All of a sudden, you got 21 personnel on the field and you're running empty, right? So if you can't be a pass catcher as a running back, I think your days are numbered. And that's certainly going back to college, because college is the forefront of some of these expanded offenses that we're starting to see. So running backs are basically going to have to be also wide receivers, right? And there's a couple of examples that show that that's happening. Cordarrelle Patterson, who you just mentioned, right? He's a kick returner wide receiver. He was a pretty damn good running back for a couple of years as well, and he probably still is on the depth chart. Debo Samuel is another one. Hell, I was watching when I called the Bengals game. They had Jamar Chase in the backfield, split backs, behind a shotgun quarterback. So
if you talk about that, Bijan Robinson, the Atlanta people say he's got the best hands of any.
Well, no, you're right, and that's what Arthur Smith wants. Arthur Smith, their head coach, he talks about it, and he's kind of crazy when you hear him. He's like, "Yeah, this is positionless football." I'm like, "Bro, we're not playing basketball, right?"
Or soccer.
Yeah, exactly. Right. This is not, that kind of free moving ball sport like soccer or basketball. But I think from a skill set standpoint, that's the reality, right? So if young kids are listening to this and you're playing running back, get on the jugs machine. Right. I'm serious.
Go play baseball. Learn how to catch fly balls.
Yeah. Great. Yeah, because it's the only way you're going to have any sustainability. Right. And it likely protects your body a lot more as well. It's just interesting where it's going. I think we're going to end up talking about this a lot, because we'll have some great running back performances this season, but it's never going to be the same as it was just, 10, 12 years ago. Never going to be the same.
Right.
Hey, how do you say this kid's name from the LA Rams? What's his name?
Puka Nacua.
Right. Puka Nacua. Who the heck is this kid?
5th round draft pick out of BYU, and 15 catches yesterday or Sunday, off 20 targets and set a record for most receptions by a rookie in his first 2 games in NFL history.
Mm-hmm.
So Cooper Kupp, go ahead and stay hurt.
Yeah, we don't need you.
Obviously, they lost the game. So I'm not going to say Cooper Kupp's not valuable. Cooper Kupp is a very valuable piece to this LA Rams team. But Tutu Atwell and Puka Nacua are making it seem like you can be an unknown in the NFL and be very, very productive.
Well, I think the bigger story, and this is what we'll talk about next, Ronde, is that there are a lot of young players that are being counted upon to be the man. I had one last weekend in Zay Flowers in Baltimore. It's like I used to hate rookies. Now I kind of starting to like them because they ball right away. I'm telling you.
Rookies are different, dude. They're different than they used to be.
They definitely are. Hey, we're changing the game. Help your bets stay hot this fall at SuperBook Sports, the most trusted name in sports gambling with a direct line to Las Vegas. And now, when you use promo code Ronde or Tiki, you can score up to $250 with their first bet bonus. Win or lose, SuperBook will match your first bet up to $250 with promo code Ronde or Tiki. You see how I continually put you first? Just showing you the respect.
This is my week, bro.
Download the SuperBook Sports app in Arizona, Colorado, Iowa, Nevada, Ohio, Tennessee, New Jersey, or Maryland. Enter the promo code Ronde or Tiki, and you'll get $250 courtesy of SuperBook Sports. Visit superbook.com for terms and conditions. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. All right, welcome back to Ronde and Tiki, presented by SuperBook Sports. Ronde, I used to hate rookies, as I said before. They just didn't get it. A lot of them were just happy to be there. Like, dude, we're grown men on this team, man. We got jobs and families. Don't be happy to be here. Get some respect. But these guys nowadays, they are stepping right in and dominating. I had the Ravens, and so I did a lot of film work on Zay Flowers, and he had a humongous catch against the Cincinnati Bengals. It's like these kids don't know that they shouldn't be this good this early. Or,
you know what?
Or it's what they're doing in college. It's so similar that it doesn't feel like it's any different. And now, if you are Zay Flowers, who was at BC and had no quarterback, you get to the NFL and you're with Lamar Jackson, former MVP. It's like, dude, this guy can actually throw it to me where it's supposed to be thrown.
So I think you're partly right on that. It's not that what they're doing in college is preparing them for the league. It's what's happening in the league that is more similar to what's going on in college that is making these guys transition so much easier. Like they step into a situation where they're basically doing the same thing that they were doing in college, aside from the quarterbacks looking to the sideline trying to get to play. I mean, now there's actually calls because the offensive coordinators are good here and they have time to teach them. Whereas in college, they got to sit there and wait for the coordinator to tell them after they call the play in, which is the most annoying thing ever in college football. But regardless, these players, especially wide receiver, I think it's most prevalent or most easy to see in wide receivers because they're talented, right? Those are the most talented bodies on the football field, most likely, unless it's corner. But corners are just receivers that can't catch. The reality is these guys, like Jordan Addison, who you had week 1 out of USC, he comes from playing with Caleb Williams his last year to Kirk Cousins, and their offenses are spread, giving them space to go out and just catch slants or hitches or whatnot and use your athleticism to make plays. Zay Flowers the same way. Just give him some space, and you have a good enough quarterback because he can give you room to just go make plays. I think when we were coming into the league, Tiki, back in the mid-'90s, it was more structured to what offenses and defenses were doing. I was studying a game the other day, and I was thinking about how I would have prepared for it. And I would have had a much more difficult time getting ready for all the shotgun runs, not being able to judge out 3-step, 5-step, 7-step from the quarterback drops, and just having to be an athlete in space. I think the onus on being an athlete is so much more now in the NFL because it's kind of transitioned to similar offenses that are in college that these guys can come in and produce right away. So to me, it's hard to judge a rookie whether or not he's going to be, long-term great or whatever.
Yeah.
Because he's coming in, you've already seen it in college. You know what he's done.
Like Justin Jefferson, like he was great at LSU. He comes, it just continues. The same thing, can be said about Jordan Addison. He was great and comes back in, it just continues. Some of these running backs the same way. I know we mentioned Bijan Robinson. He comes right in, doesn't look like it's challenging to him. I remember this running back as a rookie. I was like, man, this is hard. Like this, I'm going to get beat up if I have to do this, for 16 games. Now it's 17 games. But Jahmyr Gibbs is another example. A kid from Alabama playing high-level football, goes to Detroit. They use him in every way imaginable. So I think it's a combination of college coaches' influence coming into the NFL. And I mean, heck, you look at Todd Monken, who is the coordinator now for the Ravens. A lot of his success was in college. 2 national championships at Georgia. I know he has NFL experience, but his only head coaching stint, I think, was in college. So he gets it and he understands it, and he's bringing some of those principles, and it's helping Lamar become a better passer. Even though some people just think he's that athletic quarterback, there's a lot more to his game, and he can do a lot more. I think Monken's going to unlock that in a way that it just wasn't before. So it's going to be interesting. But one of these guys, Ronde, is on a surprise winless team. The Minnesota Vikings, they were fantastic a year ago in close games, 11-0. The only one that they lost, 1-score game, was in the playoffs to the Giants. But this year, 1-score games every so far in week 1 and 2, and they're losing them. Right there are some surprise 0-2 teams. The Bengals are one. The Minnesota Vikings are another. I don't even know how to evaluate what I believe about these teams.
Well, how about the one that
in some ways it's like I don't trust what I've seen, but you are what your record says you are, right?
Right. You're the Chargers. You put up 500 yards each game, around 500 yards each game. You don't have a turnover yet, and you're 0-2.
Yeah.
Vikings, and your MO says that you're going to win every close game because that's what you did last year, and you're 0-2 in close games. Which brings us to this game this week, Chargers at Vikings. And I love 0-2 matchups because it's that point of the year where it's time. One of these teams is going to be 0-3 and the other one's going to be 1-2, and they're both were considered playoff contenders going into the season. To me, it's an early game. It's one of the games of the week, because if you're looking, from a
importance,
perspective, because this is an important game. I think if you're a coach for the Chargers or the Vikings, this is your best performance. Like, you are uber focused this week because a loss puts you in a position where your chances now 14 weeks out, of course, of making the playoffs are significantly harder. You got to win 4 games to get back above 500. And that seems daunting early in the season. And that's what both of these teams are looking at dead in the face. And the Chargers game and Chargers at Vikings, guess what the line is, Tiki?
I'd say 1 or 2.
Pick them, baby.
Of course. Of course. Of course.
So
that makes sense, because that's exactly how they've played both weeks.
Right.
Both of them.
I don't think there's much betting action going to get on this one. Both are minus 110 on the money line, and it's a pick 'em. Over under 54. That might be the only thing to chase on that.
I mean, look, they're going to score. The over is the easy play on that one.
Right.
I mean, Kirk Cousins is throwing for 300 yards in both of his games. It's just the turnovers have been their issue. 3 against in week 1. I think they had 4 in week 2. They're going to put up the yard. Justin Jefferson is going to go for over 2,000 yards this year. It's not even a question. He's already at 300 and plus after 2 weeks. So they can get it done. Here's another one of these 0-2 teams, Ronde, that is interesting. Sean Payton, who I love, he was talking some trash about Nate Hackett. And now I think he's starting to see the issue that Nate Hackett had. Because he said something this week that was a little interesting. Russ hates the wristband. And it sounds stupid. Like, the conversation about a wristband is stupid. But I think it's pertinent to what the issue is. Sean's offenses are not simple, right? It's complex. It's varied. It has a ton of terminology, and Russ is probably struggling with it, just like he was struggling with Nate's. And he never wanted to wristband in Seattle, but they ran the ball a ton, right? And a lot of his success was off schedule. I'll tell you this: he throws a beautiful deep ball. It is gorgeous, Russell Wilson. But Sean Payton is finding out that Russ is as good of a quarterback as he is a hard quarterback to deal with. And I wonder how long, because I know Sean, his patience is not deep, right? I wonder how long this gets to a very contentious relationship out in the Mile High City.
Well, he's gonna tell him over and over and over again, quit trying to make scramble throws. That's the only thing that Russell Wilson feels like he has in his bag is when it's not there, he doesn't really do a good job. He's never really done this. He doesn't do a good job moving through progressions and getting to that guy. There could be lots of reasons for that. He's shorter, doesn't trust these guys yet. But the reality is he wants to scramble to throw. And that is not the Sean Payton offense. We know it. This is the third week in a row I've said this because I feel like we talk about the Broncos every week because they're one of the teams that you have expectations for. You have a guy that's won a Super Bowl in Russell Wilson, quarterback. You have a coach that's won a Super Bowl, Sean Payton. The marriage looks like it should be much better than it was with Daniel Hackett last year, who is probably unduly been a scapegoat for the struggles that the offense had last year. He's going to put up yards. He's going to put up yards. He's a good player. He can throw the ball down the field. He can scramble and make plays, but the efficiency of their offense requires Russell to not be so untethered. Like he's got to make better decisions. And if there's one thing that I remember, and I think I read this somewhere yesterday, Drew Brees threw more balls to running backs than any quarterback, I think, ever. And now Russell is having to do the same thing, and it's really not been his the way he's played quarterback in the NFL the first part of his career. Like he's going to have to reinvent himself, and I don't know if you can do that on the fly under a new coach in year one.
Well, you know what's interesting because we saw that Josh Allen struggled in week one. He was a shell of what we thought he was going to be, but last week. I was looking at this because I have the Bills this weekend against the Washington Commanders. Last week in their destruction of the Las Vegas Raiders, the short passing game, he had 48 completions under 10 yards. 48 in the first 2 weeks, right? But it's last week, so much of his passing was in 12 personnel under 10 yards. Right. That's what Josh Allen did to get himself right. And it wasn't, I'm Josh Allen, I'm the MVP, I'm going to throw the ball. They avoided 0-2 because they got smart with how they throw the football, as opposed to, let's just play to the strengths of what we think our star quarterback can do, which is every star quarterback wants to throw the ball downfield, but sometimes it's better to be smart.
Right. 37 passes for only 274 yards. I think that speaks to those numbers right there speak to exactly what you're saying.
Yes.
Be smart with the ball. Speaking about being smart with the ball, let's go back real quick. You were talking about the Denver Broncos. They play the Miami Dolphins this week, and Tua Tagovailoa leading the league in passing yards through 2 weeks. 700.
I don't know how. Ronde, he's the best coach. He's the best coached quarterback I've seen in a lot of years, because I think he's playing above his like ceiling. You know what I mean? I think he hit it and he just went right through it. And a lot of that is Mike McDaniel. We talked about the schemes last week. I think it was last week we were talking about the schemes, how they forced Tyreek Hill into these one-on-ones with space on the boundary at the bottom of the numbers. So you got all this room, and if you're going to man cover him, guess what? That ball's going up. But Tua is a really good deep ball thrower. And if Raheem Mostert is balling like that, I don't want to say that Miami might be that team, but Miami might be that team that surprises everybody.
6.5 point favorites at home versus those Denver Broncos. I think that's probably a good bet.
Yeah,
that's probably a good one.
I think you're right.
Last 0-2 team. We didn't talk about the Cincinnati Bengals. They are at home against the Los Angeles Rams, who just lost a pretty tough game to San Francisco because they were in that game for most of it. And then, Sean McVay and Matthew Stafford decided they were going to throw the ball for the entirety of the second half. And the game got away from them. San Francisco just was a better team. They go on the road to the Bengals. The Bengals are 1.5 point favorites at home at 0-2. What do you think about this game?
So I just had the Cincinnati Bengals. And look, they are not on all cylinders offensively. They don't run the ball nearly enough. The one drive that they had that felt Bengal-esque, it was because Joe Mixon was the catalyst, right? Running the football, bouncing outside, throwing it to him on those quick sprint screens to the running back. They got him involved. And I know T. Higgins and Jamar Chase, Tyler Boyd, they're their guys. And, T. Higgins had 2 touchdowns in this game, but it comes down to continuity and consistency of balance, which they don't have enough of. And to complicate matters, Joe Burrow has a calf injury. So he had no time, and he missed 34 days in the preseason. He was limited. They're in shotgun the entire game because he can't escape. And then he re-injured his calf at the end of this game on his last play. Threw a touchdown to T. Higgins, got pushed back, trying to catch himself, re-injured his calf. He's over there with the Theragun. And I'm like, dude, after like 3 minutes, it's probably not tight, right? There's something wrong with it.
It's restrained.
So yeah, exactly. It's restrained. So as I look at this game, and I know that it's Joe Burrow. It's the Cincinnati Bengals. They were in the Super Bowl a couple years ago. The Rams are playing outside of themselves. Even though they're home, I'd go with the Rams as a road dog here, because that line is basically close to a pick 'em. It's 1.5. Speaking of, let's pick one before we get out of here.
Right.
I'm looking at the
backup quarterback for the Bengals, Jake Browning.
Exactly.
Third year, fourth year. I don't know. He's only been he's got 1 year of NFL experience, even though he came out in 2019. Jake Browning could be starting against the Rams.
I'm going to pick one for you, Ronde. I hate to do this because I don't want to admit that the Cowboys actually might be pretty good, but the Cowboys actually might be pretty good. I don't love Dak yet. I mean, he's got to prove to me that he's an elite quarterback, that he's a $50 million a year quarterback. And I know it's a contract year, so he's kind of trying to prove that himself. But this defense might be one of the best I've ever seen. What Dan Quinn has them doing, like I'm seeing Jim Johnson stuff, like double mugs. They drop out into coverage. They have a game, like an end game, a defensive end game. He's blitzing in the opposite A gap, right? So it's like the stuff that they're doing defensively. Oh, and by the way, Trayvon Diggs, he's pretty damn good. He basically runs routes for receivers. He can like undercut the route before it even happens. And so their defense is great. And offensively, they feel balanced with CeeDee Lamb. They are in Arizona. And, maybe Arizona comes back to realize that they're not that good of a team after, losing the way that they lost to the Giants this past week. And by the way, kudos to Daniel Jones. That was epic second half. The Cowboys are laying 12.5 on the road. Give me the Cowboys minus 12.5.
I'm taking it. Micah Parsons, I mean, he's in the conversation, best rusher in the NFL. TJ Watt, Bosa, Myles Garrett, those type of guys. Micah's different, man. You put him back in Lawrence Taylor era, and you're talking about the 2 best rushers ever. Like he gets by tackles in ways that human beings should be able to go past.
And he's strong for a not huge man.
Not be a huge guy. Dallas minus 12.5. Yeah, I'm Yeah, they shut out the New York Giants in Week 1, and the offense did nothing. You go back and look at the stats from that Week 1 game. Dak Prescott and Pollard and all the CD. They didn't really do anything, and they scored 40 points. So,
special teams.
Well, yeah, special teams, of course.
John Fossil and Dan Quinn.
Fossil.
Game balls.
I need a game. What game do I want? I'm gonna think. You know which one I was looking at earlier? It was the New England Patriots at the New York Jets. God. There's so many questions now about the Jets. I've tried not to dig into Zach Wilson and his play at quarterback too much, but he ain't it, bro. He's just not quite there. I mean, he's got so much talent on offense. Nathaniel Hackett needs to find a way to make this game about Breece Hall and Dalvin Cook and less about Zach Wilson. They're 2.5, getting 2.5 from New England at home. Another home dog team that's 1-1. Obviously, they snuck away with those 3 interceptions by Jordan Whitehead in Week 1. They didn't get those in Week 2, and they lose. So New England, I think, is probably feeling a little bit of, pressure right now. They
can't afford to go 0-3.
Right. They can't afford to go 0-3. This is another one of the 0-2 teams that we talked about. So road favorite, the New England Patriots, 2.5 points. I think I'm taking that because I know that Bill Belichick is going to. I mean, if he's still Bill Belichick that we all know and love, Bill Belichick finds a way to go to the Jets and force a win for his football team. I'm taking that one. That's an emotional bet for me. Like, don't be an emotional bettor, but if I was an emotional bettor, I'm taking New England.
All right, well, that does it for Week 3 of Ronde and Tiki on SuperBook Sports. Appreciate everybody at SuperBook Sports. By the way, if you're out in Las Vegas, go check out the West Gate. It's dope. It's big. It's awesome. Appreciate you, Ronde. Have a good I don't even know what they're doing for you down in Roanoke and Cave Spring. Have a good whatever that is that they're doing.
I don't know either. I don't want to know. I'm going to go in, get in the car. Not going to put on the night uniform like I did when I was substituting for you, since you were the Cave Spring night. I am going to get in a convertible on and ride in the parade to homecoming, and then
Nice. Well, have fun, and then have fun on Monday night getting your Hall of Fame ring. Much deserved. Much respect, bro. See you, man.
Cheers, bro.
The Ronde and Tiki Podcast is produced by SuperBook Sports. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER in Colorado, Maryland, Nevada, New Jersey, Ohio, and Tennessee. In Iowa, call 1-800-BETS-OFF or visit 800betsoff.org. In Arizona, call 1-800-NEXT-STEP or text NEXT STEP to 53342.